Hi, Amber.
Hi, Megan.
Hi, Michael.
Hey, guys.
Welcome to Bad Movies Rock.
Thank you, Megan. Megan, welcome
Thank
to
you.
Bad Movies Rock. You know how sometimes like a thing will happen and then another thing will happen that'll be related to that thing, and you won't have expected either of those things to happen because they sort of harken back to an old thing you haven't really thought about that much. And then
Sure.
a third thing will happen that relates to that thing, and then you think, oh, I'm living in a simulation, or the universe is trying to tell me something.
You mean like if we're watching like Supernatural and they all of a sudden have an episode on imaginary friends, and that kind of like reminds you of some movie that you watched as a kid, and then what else would happen, Amber?
Well, before that even happened, I was watching. So you know how I watch Critical Role, and then there's the show Talks Machina, where they talk about the episodes that they did, and the people who do Critical Role basically, Michael, soulmates, just cultural. Pop culture soulmates, similar to how you and I operate. They have seen and remember all the same shit from my childhood that I do.
Uncanny.
So they mentioned Drop Dead Fred while talking about something in their campaign. Okay, 2 days later, yeah, we're watching Supernatural because that's a thing we've decided to do to ourselves. That's why we keep referencing it. And lo and behold, there's a freaking episode on imaginary friends. Apparently it's a literal magical creature that only the child can see, and they're just there. And in the episode itself, obviously they mentioned Drop Dead Fred because clearly one of the writers saw that movie forever ago and thought, hey, fuck it. It's season 11. Let's do an imaginary friend episode. Mm-hmm. That alone, strange, within 2 days of each other. But the next day, Megan.
The third day. Michael, what did you rate? What'd you say?
I had this idea pop into my head, and I sent you a text that was basically said, what did it say? It's like, emergency. I must watch Drop Dead Fred with you. I don't know why, but I really feel like we need to drop everything and watch this movie right now.
Yep.
Basically that sentiment.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It broke my brain.
Amazing. Yeah. It was meant to be.
I suppose it was. This is a movie that I think about on and off again over the years, and I've wondered for a long time because I haven't seen it in 25 years probably. But it stuck with me, and I've wanted to watch it again. And I was like, I know who's probably seen it and has the same exact feelings about it because we share some kind of weird pop culture id or something. Like, it all comes from the same source. And I was like, I'm going to reach out to Amber and Megan about this. And lo and behold, you guys have been having this existential crisis already that I just dropped a nuclear metaphysical bomb onto. So you're welcome.
Yep.
It was a beautiful thing.
I mean, she knew it was coming because I had already made it clear after the Supernatural episode. And then you just, oof.
You accelerated the process. Yeah.
Indeed. Indeed.
We watched what is it? Why do I keep calling it 2000? We watched the 1991 Drop Dead Fred, everybody.
It's because it was ahead of its time, Megan. And you were
yes.
Ahead of its time.
It was.
You want to put it situated in the future.
Yeah.
Megan, fuck you first.
Yep.
There's no
Short.
Drop Dead Fred, and everybody knows
Agreed,
that.
yes.
There you go.
As Michael mentioned, very few people, I think, probably remember this movie. For some reason, he and I were rolling around in the same strange dirt pile of movies and
This
television.
weird zeitgeist of media. It's,
Yep.
I don't know how else to explain it. It explains us.
It does.
Somehow.
It does.
It does.
Us and Matt Mercer, I think. If the three of us were all in a room together, we might either explode or end the universe.
Or just talk our own language. I think we would talk and it would be incomprehensible to anybody else.
Just a beautiful shorthand. Yeah. Yeah.
We just call each other snot face and
Mega bitch.
so yeah, it's really amazing how this episode kind of became. So thank you guys for sharing that. It's weird.
Yeah.
Some things are stranger
Excellent.
than fiction, I guess.
It's beautiful. Beautiful thing that came together.
Or was it inevitable?
Death, taxes, and Drop Dead Fred. Well, Megan, as this is your first time viewing this film, I don't want you to get lost. I think it's very important that I remind you what you have just seen with a browsing game of which. However, as Michael is our guest, I myself have not prepared a summary, so we shall be doing summaries in no particular order.
Okay.
Metacritic, IMDb, Amazon, and Michael. And you shall tell me Oh, which is which?
Excellent.
Are you prepared?
Most likely.
Excellent. When a young woman returns to her mother's home after her marriage breaks up, she recreates her imaginary childhood friend to escape from recent traumas. Not necessarily completely accurate, and a little bit presumptuous, if I might say.
Yeah. Yep.
A little bit.
A young woman finds her already unstable life rocked by the presence of a rambunctious imaginary friend from childhood.
Okay.
Rambunctious is the nicest thing you can
Yeah.
say about Drop Dead.
Yeah. What is the word where you say below the thing you mean?
Oh, I don't know.
Like you say a nice thing instead of the real thing.
White people talk?
Yeah.
It's how white people talk, Amber. Yeah, wasp.
There's a word for
It's
it.
waspish.
It's euphemistic. It's euphemistic.
Okay, yeah. The same thing.
3. A young woman finds her already unstable life rocked by the presence of a rambunctious imaginary friend from childhood.
Okay. Yes.
And finally.
Meet Lizzie, a grown-up little girl, daughter to a monster and a wifey to a churl. Cheatin' Charlie act like he's got all the dangle, but the putz is just a stub on a loveless triangle. Lizzie trying to talk to him about their marital problems, but then she lost her job and then moves back to home with mom again. The jack-in-box is twirling and the weasel popping off again. And there's that lump under the bed. Look behind you. Drop Dead Fred.
Nice. Yes!
He's imaginary. Would you like to meet him? I made him a man because only a man has the freedom to be a crass asshole, tell people what they think, rolls up on you with dog do shoes, proud that his shit stinks. Yeah, he murders the dolls, pulls out their intestines, makes mean pants pie that'll give you indigestion. He makes puke jokes like it's his religion, yet he gets grossed out when you do it like the pigeons. He's got a carrot top Beetlejuice with an English accent like her dad she once had before he up and went. Lizzie fighting back now through Fred. She acts out. Drown the fish, sink the ship. Hey, it's the only way out of her fucked up life. It don't make sense, full of spousal lies and negligence. How can she fear the consequence when she already lost her innocence? She finds her real friends like Mickey and Janie who'll splash the spaghetti and forego the nookie, but her mom and her Charles still up in her head. Got some pills that'll make Drop Dead Fred drop dead, but together they go deep in the mind. It's trippy, it's scary, but that's how she finds her inner child, and then it gets real, gets all the feels, starts to heal. It wasn't her, but reality that had gotten surreal. Fred said goodbye, dropped out of her head. She's on her own 2 feet, she's in her own bed. She's got a straight spine and a stiff upper lip, and Fred's still in her heart, and yo, that is legit. And so does this movie. The critics, they pass, but watch it, snot face, because it's a blast.
Wow.
I think that we are going to change our format here, where we're actually not going to talk about the movie. We're going to talk about Michael's rap about the movie. We're going to analyze that.
Let's unpack that shit, because that was, I mean,
it's beautiful.
Before we started recording, you said that's corny. I was.
Oh, yeah. I was working on the ending.
Insightful. That was, it hit all the right notes. It went deep into the subtext of the film. It was the discussion we're about to have. You know, it was like what Megan does to me all the time. I will say 10,000 words over the course of 10 minutes to sort of talk around a subject. Megan will say one thing, he likes Elon Musk. Boom, blows the whole thing wide open.
Yeah.
So what we're about to spend an hour talking about, people, Michael just wrapped it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, you were already done. Feel free to switch off. Like, you came and got what you needed.
It was
Thanks for
beautiful.
the movie. It was good.
Yes.
No, we got a lot to talk. This movie there's a lot of meat on the bone.
There is.
For this movie that a lot of people passed on. We're barreling towards Critics' Corner, I think, with like a semi truck full of dynamite, because I'm kind of pissed about it. You know,
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
There's a lot here.
I don't disagree with
anyway.
you. I don't I was definitely concerned, as I had not myself seen it in at least a couple decades too, so I didn't know how well it would hold up, but my memory of it was, this is an oddly emotionally impactful message and story that's pretty relevant in general to people's emotional growth as adults and how that harkens back to childhood, mixed with poop jokes and humor that could appeal to a 6-year-old.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, Amber, I'm a pedantic listener of the show. I need to know which is which. I was gonna
ask, like, do you think
if I don't get which is which, I won't be able to sleep tonight.
If we skip it, how mad do you think our listeners would be?
I'm here. I'm telling you, angry.
Which is which bluebles?
It's gotta be Amazon, IMDb, Metacritic, Michael.
Technically.
Was it? Yeah.
I read Metacritic first, but they're identical, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They were identical.
They were identical. This is what they do sometimes. I don't know who cheats off who, but
that's not fair.
Yeah, they definitely are looking over at each other's papers. Yeah.
You remember
I did this time.
naughty. Yeah. All right. Although
because
I don't know if it's consistent. Yeah.
I think it is. I think Amazon does not do it, which always surprises me, which is what I finally started to remember.
It's the one wrong they do not do.
Exactly. Yep.
Excellent.
All right.
Well played,
Well
Madam.
done, Megan. Well played.
Thank you. Okay, so this is on Rotten Tomatoes. This is the biggest critic to audience discrepancy that I've seen. We've got 11% for the critics. And you add 66 to that, and we've got 77% for the audience.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is an open palm slap, son. Are you just going to stand there and bleed? Oh my God. That is really bad.
It's really
bad.
Yeah. But the repudiation from the users is, and Rotten Tomatoes numbers are not something to laugh at. Metacritic sometimes is a couple dozen people who review the movie. Rotten Tomatoes is usually hundreds, if not thousands.
It's over 100,000 ratings.
Over 100,000?
Holy
is what it says. Yep.
I need to meet every one of those people. I think we could maybe have an amazing orgy of the mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Either way, whatever, we'll see where
it would be like masturbation because apparently we're all the same people.
We are all just the same
That's
person.
true.
Yeah.
That's a very good point.
Gorgeous.
Oh my goodness.
Glorious. Well, Metacritic
It's reassuring. It's nice to know that there are some sane people out there. That's good to know.
Yep.
Wow, that's a disturbing statement that I agree with. Fair enough. Metacritic, critics are aggregated at 25, users at 49. A little less extreme, but still,
But still capturing the critic-user discrepancy. There's somebody's right and somebody's wrong. And we know who.
And the critics are wrong. I mean, it's just,
Critics are wrong. Critics are fucking wrong.
Yep.
What are some of I'm interested to know, what are some of the things that critics said about this film?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they, at least on Rotten Tomatoes, they think it's crass. They think it's slapstick humor, unfunny. Yeah, I feel like
funny.
Yeah, I feel like it's just not watched with the audience in mind.
I don't think they know who the audience is because it is definitely kind of a child humor slapstick.
Yeah,
that a lot of people, some people just come straight for Rick Mayall, who plays Drop Dead Fred. Not the character. They're not mad at the character. They're mad at Rick because the character is very frenetic, very just manic. At times obnoxious,
boisterous, very obnoxious most of the time. Yeah. But then very heartfelt and sweet at the end too. He's a complicated character.
But
I thought he was played well.
You have to wade through all of the insanity to get to the message, and the insanity is kind of the point. And I think because it is comedic and billed as a comedy, people think if I'm not laughing and if this is super juvenile humor, I can see my kid getting into this, but this isn't for me, an adult, even though the message itself is largely fairly adult.
Yep.
And I think it kind of runs into something that we've seen with a lot of the movies that kind of are scored lower than Megan and I would agree with, is where does this fit in the genre? Who is the audience it's intended for? And so there's definitely some reviews that say, it was not credited, it's from TV Guide magazine, Children may delight in some of Drop Dead Fred's fanciful effect sequences, but they're likely to be bored by Elizabeth's grown-up problems. And adults may identify with the self-help message, but the rest is squirm-inducing. And I can see that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. But I watched this as a kid. I did laugh at it.
Mm-hmm.
I was also uncomfortable with a lot of it, even the stuff that I found kind of funny. And I did get the adult messages. It's right. Not, it was not opaque to me. And now as an adult, those messages I think are even more impactful because I've lived a life to the point of adulthood and I see the value in it. Yeah. And I have the affection for the scenes that would potentially just be squirm-inducing. But we have Megan here who doesn't have that thing, that past reliance. So we can interrogate that with her.
Mm-hmm. You can interrogate me.
About that. Where were you on the night of October 20th, 2022? Oh, you were with me and Amber. We were watching.
It's true. We were watching. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
I do want to interrogate that. I guess I wanted to point out first, real quick. This is so ironic to me because when we were looking at the film, like in Amazon, and it showed like people also viewed, and the movies that the algorithm came up with that were like peer movies for this were so bizarre and nothing like it. I think the closest they got was Problem Child,
right,
with the kind of humor, but I don't think necessarily the kind of depth and character development this movie does. So like I can see how it would be hard to place. And it always, I don't know, it bothers me when people respond to a movie that is good, but because they can't really put it in a category, they feel like it must not be good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if it doesn't fit in their nice little, tidy little spot, like it must not be very good because it didn't make me laugh the way it's supposed to or whatever. You know what I mean? Like
right.
The review you read about it can be both. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be just one thing. And, yeah, that just rankles me. I wish that people had more of an open mind, I guess.
Yep. And billing this as an adult comedy, it's PG-13, so it could kind of go either way. It's clearly not meant for kids because it's not PG. But I think makes people expect to be laughing at every joke. And that's not what it's for. I think it is supposed to be a bit squirm-inducing and a bit juvenile. But that's intentional. I think it's intentionally trying to take an adult psyche and force it to contend with these things. And these things that we did think were funny when we were 6. And maybe some of the things we do still think are kind of silly. I think it is supposed to be disorienting because the experience of the main character is meant to be disorienting and sort of transporting back to childhood. So I think it 100% what you said. I think it's a good movie. I think it accomplishes what it intends to accomplish, but I think it is an effective failure to categorize it because there's not necessarily a category for it. So if you can't situate it within your expectations and then judge it based on those, it makes it hard to judge. And so it just sort of gets madly rejected.
Yeah. And I'll add, this is a quick final point. Movies like this don't get made anymore because of that, right? Like if the studio can't see a clear category and a clear audience and a clear profit, you know what I mean? Like they're not likely to, like maybe, indie movies can take these kind of risks. And maybe if you view it in a lens of like, maybe this is more like an indie type movie, then if you categorize it like that, maybe then you'll have more of an open mind and can receive it the way it was intended to be.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Megan.
Yes, that's me.
What were your thoughts about it?
Well, Michael, I can definitely, so I definitely feel the humor that makes me a little stressed out. And like you were saying, it's kind of supposed to be squirm inducing, you know. There's this imaginary friend going around doing terrible things, and of course either the little girl or the adult woman is getting blamed for them, and that that kind of thing stresses me out. It just like hits all those. It just makes me I just get so stressed out. Or she's gonna get blamed for something that wasn't her fault.
Like you're gonna get in trouble, or she's gonna get in trouble. And
yeah,
just that tension of like getting found out.
Yep. But that's
Megan's
also
got some skeletons in her closet, I guess. Is that what I'm hearing?
Don't worry about it, Michael. Don't worry about it. Don't look behind me. Don't look in that closet. Keep it closed. That's my Halloween decoration. So worry about it.
That is definitely a human femur. Don't fuck with me.
He's trying to escape.
It's
Run,
plastic.
I know a femur when I see one, and it looks like it's been gnawed on. I'm just going to put that out there.
Listen, a popcorn gets hungry sometimes.
Very naughty.
Oh, no.
Michael.
Sorry.
Michael. But, and then I was thinking about that, and then that's me completely dissociating Drop Dead Fred and Elizabeth from each other, right? Because the question of something that we talked about a whole bunch, and I actually saw in some reviews, were like, are they supposed to be a different person? Is this her just acting out? Is this, like, there's the like kids' view of something of like, oh, they're two different people, and so he's getting her in trouble. But if it's only her wrestling with her own psyche, then she's doing these things, and she is getting herself in trouble.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's the fun of the movie, if you ask me. Like, is it real? Is it imagined? Where's the line? Blurring the line, playing with that blurred line, throwing some things in there that make you question, what you had assumed. Like that made it fun to watch it again, because when you watch it as a kid, you take it at face value. Oh, Drop Dead Fred is real, and only she can see him, and you just kind of accept that premise. But then like you watch it later, and it's kind of like the Pan's Labyrinth kind of, or like Return to Oz. Like, was this somebody dealing with their psychosis in a way, and is this an allegory or a metaphor of some kind?
I would suggest that in those instances, both of them, I would argue, end with somebody dead or just drooling in a corner. I don't think Dorothy in Return to Oz returns home and is okay. And in Pan's Labyrinth, she just dead. We see her corpse.
Yeah, so she's dead.
In this case, she comes out from this journey really healthy and grounded.
It ends up it's on a upbeat note at the end.
And I would argue that makes a solid case for external professional intervention. I don't think a person gets from traumatized to re-traumatized to healthy without assistance. And I would suggest that if Fred is some sort of self-actualized thing, it is the self-actualization of something else she's going through. I would argue psychedelics. But hey, that's just me.
Okay.
I would say she had a tool. If that tool is a real imaginary friend, cool. If a real imaginary friend is just some mushrooms she found in a pocket and took and had a nice trip that got her back to healthy, neat. And Carrie Fisher, turns out, wasn't her friend, was her therapist the whole time. I'm just saying.
Interesting.
Oh,
okay.
that's interesting.
That's interesting interpretation.
Yeah.
But I think, yes, it's the critics are wrong. They didn't know what to do with this movie. They didn't like the humor.
Fucked up.
They weren't supposed to. One of them even says that the movie turns sour and replaces the cuteness with venom and malice.
What?
And I can't help but feel that maybe they're over-identifying with maybe the mother.
Maybe.
Because
or
there's
Charles. Like, why can't they let this guy have an affair with a woman and do time people and be just a total douchebag and say the worst line I think I've ever heard a man say to a woman? Oh, God.
Oh, boy. Yeah, we can talk about Charles.
Yeah.
So, yeah, critics got it wrong. Just 100% got it wrong.
Yeah. And don't seem to respect the fact that this is a bigger story than the face value of it. No one seems to mention that. They all just kind of go in at the like slapstickness of it and the kind of silly humor.
And that's the only scrap of that I'll give them, is that like there were some musical cues and some slapstick and some sight gags that suggests kind of a Looney Toony kind of like
very much
silliness. But it just went over their head because that's supposed to be her childhood humor, you know what I mean, being represented. And some of it was actually funny. Some of it was just like, ooh, like that's dumb. But like, they missed the point of that humor in the context of the story that's being told, and that
absolutely
is just a big swing and a miss.
Absolutely. Well, just to put an example real quick in what you just said, because you're exactly right. He gets his head stuck in the fridge, it gets flattened, and then there's the makeup gag of, oh, his head is flat now, and he has to put it back together. And so there's this long sequence of him trying to reinflate his head and being silly in the kitchen. That's not the funny part. The funny part is that you have an adult woman sitting in her mother's kitchen, seeing this happening while her mother just goes about her business trying not to laugh. The funny part is if you imagine this as though it is really happening. And that's funny. That's disorienting. That's crazy. This adult woman thinks this is happening while she's trying to hold a straight conversation with her mother. Like, that's... Whatever. The person who got the closest, I will say there's one positive review.
Okay.
It's from Jay Boyer at the Orlando Sentinel. I had fun watching Drop Dead Fred, but I want to take special care not to raise expectations unrealistically by overpraising it. The movie is no comic masterpiece, but it is consistently amusing in a way that sometimes reminded me of a kiddie picture and at other times of more sophisticated comedy. So I feel like he gets the seeds of the fact that it's supposed to be both. And he suggests that it's not doing either consistently well, but it's the synergy he's missing.
Yep.
All right, fuck you, Critters Corner.
Yeah. Get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
Smear some dog poo on their furniture and get the hell out.
Dog poo, lovely dog poo.
Lovely dog poo. Where do you guys want to start?
Ooh.
Where can we start?
Yeah. Well, let's start with the opening scene, I think.
Okay.
The opening scene, kind of before the credits roll, is the mother reading a bedtime story to the daughter, like as a little girl. And it's some like bullshit fairy tale story of like the prince. And I need you guys to help me with some of the quotes here, because she reads a story and then like I think the girl asks, "So was she happily ever after? Like was she happy after that?" And the mother says, "Yes." What did she say?
Yes, of course.
Yes, of
and
course.
She said, "But how do you know?"
That's it. Yes. How do you know? The little girl asks, and then the mother has this line where it's like, because she was nice, and the princess will only be with a nice girl or something like that.
Yep. If she had been naughty, he would have run away from her.
That's what. Yes. If she had been naughty, that's key, because we find out later that her husband left her.
Right.
The mom has a whole psychological journey in this movie too, that she's only just getting started on by the time it ends. But, and then the little girl, as the mother is like walking away, she's like, "That's a pile of shit."
Yeah.
In her cute little girl voice.
In her cute little girl voice, she says, "That's a pile of shit." And then roll credits, and it's this really weird credits of like almost like crayon style animation, but like.
Yeah.
That sets us up so well for like, that was that girl's last, moments of being herself. You know what I mean? Of like critical thinking, pushing back against authority, taking for reality for what it is and speaking her own mind. Right. And then we fast forward after the credits to Lizzie's in a car trying to rehearse what she's going to say to her husband, who's been cheating on her, and how she wants to get back together with him anyway. She's become this total doormat, of a person who has been suppressing what she wants in exchange for getting on and getting by and, being pleasing to other people. And she's a wreck, unfortunately.
Yes. It's actually kind of gut-wrenching as she's practicing it. This is really kind of fucking insightful, too. As she's sitting in the car practicing her speech to Charles, she says, "Okay, it's really important that we talk about this. Charles, I forgive you. And I love you." And then she takes a moment, looks ill, and says, "Oh, that hurt more to say than I thought it would." And it's her almost fighting back against what she's going to do, which is sublimate her own feelings and desires for the sake of this thing that she thinks she wants and needs, this person, this relationship. And she has a visceral physical reaction to the pain of suggesting that she should forgive him, that she should still love him. And then she goes right forward and tries to do it anyway. Blows right past.
And they turn the knife, they twist the knife in our hearts a little bit more, because he's at a Jaguar dealership with some douchebag car salesman, of course. And she's trying to talk to him, and he's just kind of like very patronizing and just very like, "Oh, Lizzie, this is the best thing that could have happened to us. I'm free. I'm going to move in with Annabelle." And she's like, "Her name's Annabelle." And like all this, it's like, it's just, he's like, "Yeah, this was your idea. It's so great." And
It was?
She's there trying to... Yeah.
Yeah.
And he talks to her like she's a child.
Yep.
This is kind of a theme that keeps coming up, is everyone talks to her and treats her like a child. And probably because she is still, emotionally, just so codependent and like a child in that sense.
Yeah,
she dresses like a child.
Yeah, I was gonna say they even have her.
Sorry.
No. Yeah, they even have her dressed in kind of very adult, childlike dresses. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if you looked at her from a distance and you couldn't tell, like, if you didn't have like the spatial cues to tell her how tall she was, you would think it was a little girl. You know what I mean? Like, the
absolutely.
long dress, the long hair, the long haircut that like a little girl has, where it's not like shaped or anything.
Yep, it's just straight and then chopped straight. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Bows and high collars and absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in 5 minutes, she's fails to forgive her husband for cheating on her, has her car stolen, is late to her job as a stenographer, which I also think is interesting at the courthouse. Her job is just to copy what other people say.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
She doesn't have her own voice. She doesn't get to speak up in the courtroom. She's just there to write down what other people are doing. And she gets fired from that because she's late. And she even comes in, and this is a really interesting moment too, because she comes in and she's like, I'm sorry I'm late. Like, I lost my car, my husband, and like something else.
My wallet,
money.
Yeah.
My wallet, my purse.
Because her purse was stolen from the car, and then a minute later, the car was stolen.
Yeah.
And then the judge, who's a real piece of work, is like, all in the same lunch hour, huh? Like real D-bag. And then she goes to sit down to start her job, and he's like, come to the bench, and he says, you're fired. And that's the start of this movie.
Yep.
So then her mom like just appears in her life, and she's like, I'm going to get you back together with your husband, and you're going to come live with me for a little while. And she tries to stand up to her mom. She says, no, I'm going to stay in my apartment tonight. And then the next thing we see is them pulling up to her house. Her mom's driving the car, and she's back home.
Yeah, but before this, she has a fateful encounter as she exits the job she was just fired from with childhood friend Mickey, played by Ron
Mickey.
Eldard. By the way, Elizabeth Phoebe Cates makes the movie.
Yeah.
She's amazing.
Young
so
Elizabeth. Yeah. Young Elizabeth, who's played by Ashley Peldon, is
so
also so good.
She's so good.
Both adorable and like silly
Puckish,
and I feel like
sassy,
I feel like she and Rick Mayall must have had like a nice relationship, because they play really
they do.
well off of each other, and that's kind of just adorable.
Absolutely.
That's such a good point.
Yeah.
It seems like the girl was sincerely entertained by what they were doing. Like, it was really cool.
Those aren't fake giggles.
No.
So she runs into her old friend Mickey, and who she hasn't seen since they were 6, And he's like, oh, I remember you. Do you remember what you did to my grandma? What? I never did anything to your grandma. No, you. Oh, that's right. That's what you said at that time. You said, gosh, what was his name? You said Drop Dead Fred did it. And she has this faraway look on her face. She's like, oh, that's right. Drop Dead Fred. And she gets this little smile. And they catch up briefly. He mentions he's getting a divorce. She says you have to work through it. And it's a nice encounter. He seems very cheerful. And then, her mom comes and steamrolls her life.
Yeah. Mickey's interesting, too, because it seems like his life has also had like a parallel suppression that is like... Another thing this movie does really well is it tells a lot of stories off the screen, but I think. And I would argue that Mickey's one, because his fascination with Lizzie has to do with him. It's almost like she's his Drop Dead Fred. You know what I mean? Like, she was his outlet for his angst and adventure and being yourself and all these things, right? And so like he's also coming off of a bad relationship because presumably he also couldn't be his true self,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And this kind of a rom-com setup almost, right? Like, oh, then these two must be getting together at the end of this movie. Like, if you're like tuned in, you're probably thinking that, right? And I don't know. I think Mickey's super, super interesting.
Yeah, because they don't wind up together. Mickey is just another part of her journey to remind her of who she used to be and to support her as she's becoming who she's going to become. Like, he is almost excessively approving and enabling.
One could say too much. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. But so she's home with her mom, and that's when she goes up to her own bedroom, which is still pink and still has the white wicker nightstand furniture.
Fucking
and the
Pepto-Bismol
little girl.
hell.
Yeah, yeah. It's like somebody threw up Pepto-Bismol all over the place. So it hasn't changed since she's been an adult. And she finds this Jack-in-the-Box that has tape all over it. And then it gets kind of, in my opinion, like a fucking horror movie for about 5 minutes.
Yes.
It is fucking scary.
Yeah.
Because you have this Jack-in-the-Box cranking itself. To Pop Goes the Weasel, which is, we can all agree, is
very
a terrifying
scary.
song.
Yeah.
Unsettling song.
Yeah. And it's spinning and spinning, and she's just kind of like looking at it, and then it stops, and then it pops open, or does she takes the tape off?
She takes it, yeah, she ends up taking the tape off, yeah.
So she takes the tape off of it and I think sets it back down, and then it pops open, and this weird like booger kind of like pops out of it with like a little red poof hair on it, and rolls under the bed, and then she's looking at it, she's looking for it, and then she looks up, and then boom, he's right there. A man is standing behind her, and it's Drop Dead Fred, and all of his red-headed green
and yellow,
and red shoes, like a clown. And he's immediately trying to pick up where they left off. He's like, "Where are the dolls? Where's the fire truck? Let's play." Like it's really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and he adjusts once he realizes, okay, you're an adult. Then we can do adult shit.
Yeah, he's freaked out at first. He's like,
"Yes,
what did you do? Do you grew up?" It's almost like Peter Pan or something. Like,
right?
Oh,
yeah,
you're hideous.
Yep.
But then he's like, "Oh wait,
we can get into some shit.
We can get arrested." I mean, that's not what he says, but you could now. There are real consequences. Guy who chose a child to play burglar when she was 6.
Yeah, the flashbacks that they have of their antics are unique. And interesting.
Upsetting as an adult.
And upsetting.
I mean, as a child, it was still upsetting, but now as an adult, where you're the person who would clean that up. I think Megan mentioned this. It's as you're watching some of these scenes, you're also thinking about, that mess, though. Oh, the consequences.
Yeah.
Yeah. When they first got to the house, the mom has this room roped off, and she's like, "Oh, don't go in there. I just have the carpet shampooed." Like, this is like boundary. Boom. Right. And the first thing Drop Dead Fred wants to do is he goes outside in the middle of the night and finds some dog shit, walks in on his hands upside down with poop on his shoes, and then just like does this
handspring,
like a handspring. Thank you.
Yep.
And just lands
So bad.
Yeah. He wants to be very careful, not to get the dog poop in the foyer, but to only get it on the shampooed carpet.
Right, that's a good point.
So it's very important.
Yeah. He's just bouncing around, wiping it on the
furniture, the chair and the carpet, and it's oh boy, super gross.
The main thrust of humor in this movie is Drop Dead Fred does some crazy stuff, but everybody thinks that Lizzie does it, right? Like that's the general premise of the humor. So she wakes up in the morning and her mom is scrubbing all the dog shit, and she's like, "I can't believe that you put this," she's like blaming Lizzie for it.
Yeah.
Which is our first instance of did Lizzie actually really do that? Did Lizzie come home, have a psychotic break, and go out and just become feral and just start smearing shit all over something?
Yeah.
I'd like to think yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is maybe where we can touch into her mom being this piece of work where her mom has kind of forced her to come home, is definitely kind of very much treating her like a child at some point. She says, her mom tells her, "Oh, I made up your room." And Lizzie, who's still in very much shock because of this breakup, is like, "Oh," and her mom says, "Oh, is that all you have to say to me?" It's like, "Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Mother."
Mother,
yeah. And so, and then her mom being really, so she's cleaning, she's in a silk shirt and skirt cleaning up
and
poop.
Pumps, pink pumps,
and pumps.
Don't forget the pumps.
Yeah, cleaning up poop, all in pink, and she's annoyed, but then Lizzie doesn't respond to that annoyance. And so her mom doesn't push it in a way. And it all feels very like, I don't know, her mom's just a very weird presence and very like manipulative and like off-putting in a lot of ways.
Right, because if she was truly mad, she should be. I'd be furious. You smeared, even if I hadn't just had that carpet shampooed, what is wrong with you?
What is wrong with you?
And you're giving me no explanation? That's not acceptable. Whereas her mom's response is fury. And then Elizabeth just kind of walks away and starts making coffee. And so she changes tacks immediately. And immediately starts going after the husband stuff because I can get her on her insecurity about her husband, and that's where I can get in there. And that exact manipulative is the right word. It's as though every emotion is oddly manufactured to exert control.
I think this is also the like deeper humor of this movie is because of Fred, she starts to land these jabs against these forces that are controlling her, and it starts to shake them up a little bit. So like what you were saying about how like you would expect the mom to be really upset and to like yell at her, maybe even throw her out, right? Like, I welcomed you to my home and try to help you, and now you did this. No. That puts mom off. Mom is like on guard. Yep. She has to like shift strategy a little bit, and it's probably all subconscious, right? But that that's because Fred. That's because she has the freedom to do something really freaky, like smearing shit everywhere. Yeah, and it puts everybody else off their game.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. It knocks them off of kilter while she inexplicably, while seeing this thing that doesn't exist, that shouldn't exist, that's doing crazy shit, seems so calm. She's
calm.
Irritated. She's amused, but she's never freaked out. Even when he sinks her friend's houseboat. And I think we can. Yikes. We'll talk more about the mom. I obviously will come back to her. But I do want to mention Janie, who's played by Carrie motherfucking Fisher.
Carrie motherfucking Fisher is great in this movie.
It's great in this movie. Yeah. Great character. Great Carrie Fisher. And the juxtaposition of her and the mom happens early on too. When the mom comes to grab her, Janie is already with Elizabeth, offering support. And it's much more nurturing and compassionate and lively. She's literally telling her like affirmations. I'm great. It's okay to be alone. Fuck Charles.
Yeah, I hate Charles. And she gets Lizzie to say, I hate Charles, right?
Yes.
She's like, how'd that feel? You know?
I feel the same. And when her mom shows up, Janie's response is, she'll be okay. She just needs, some mom energy, some cuddles. And the mom's response is, cuddles are for stuffed animals.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yep.
And it really sets up this immediately, okay, you found a good mother figure friend. Awesome.
Yep.
But she's not the loudest voice in your head yet. She's there. Yep. You've definitely, brought her presence and you wonder how they met. But it's she still doesn't have the same strength to keep her in place. She's literally, Elizabeth is in the apartment. I'm going to stay. And Jane's like, good, you should stay. And she goes anyway. So like the mom is still
mom is still overbearing enough. It's so true.
You need to drop that Fred.
I like to think that's another story told off camera. Like it appears as though Janie works at the law firm or the firm or the courthouse. She's dating Murray, who is a lawyer. They're in a board meeting where they're talking like lawyerly type stuff. Like, did they just bump into each other because,
she's a lawyer and she was a
stenographer?
Yeah.
And like have coffee at some point? Like,
Fuck
that's interesting, right?
That's exactly what happened, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
That seems like good writing to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just saying.
The pieces are there. It's just not explicit. I like that. It is a pretty lean movie. It's an hour and 43 minutes. So I which I appreciate. It's not too long.
I'm always a fan of efficient storytelling,
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I ask you guys a question? This is something I just thought of a second ago. Does Lizzie ever ask Fred to like stop doing what he's doing?
She does.
Okay.
I think.
Because normally in this kind of movie, like you would have the main character like shouting at the chaos agent, like, "Hey, stop! You're gonna get me in trouble," or "Hey, stop! Like, I don't want this to happen." Like, that sort of thing. Like, get the genie back in the bottle, or I don't remember her being like. It was like knock it off, but then she would allow it. Like it was very passive. It wasn't like she wasn't freaking out about how much trouble she was about to get in.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep, that was definitely true.
She was usually
interesting.
silent when it was happening. Sometimes she'd shake her head. The times when she was actively yelling at him were usually when she wasn't around her friends or she was alone with him.
I guess in the mall after the date with Mickey, she was yelling at him and then like attacked the violinist.
Yeah, the leave me alone moment.
Yeah. But,
Yeah,
but
you're right,
during
though.
a lot of his mayhem, she wasn't like...
She's passive. Yep.
Freaking
Or
out.
laughing.
Or thinking it's funny.
Or actively tells him to go and help with something. Up to this point, nothing we've seen of Fred would encourage you to think he would help. And Janie, her friend, has a houseboat. She flees to the houseboat to kind of get away from her mom. She's actually fleeing Fred. She tries to sneak out while he's asleep. And, talks her way onto the houseboat. Janie's like, you can stay the night. Then she thinks she sees Charles, her husband, in a speedboat. So she takes Janie's houseboat on the water, and Fred shows up and pushes a button. She said, well, we need to go faster. Can you go fix the engines? Crazy manic imaginary friend.
All her damn self.
She
Fred
does.
didn't do that.
No.
Fred doesn't do that. Yeah. And then she asks him, and then so he just takes a wrench and starts smashing.
Just smashing things.
And that's funny. And he thinks they're playing pirates, right? So he's like doing cartwheels and talking about drowning fishes and all this crazy shit.
Drown all the fishes. Kill all the pirates. And the houseboat legitimately sinks.
It goes down, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She basically burns her friend's house to the fucking ground.
Mm.
Yeah. Janie's surprisingly chill about it.
Janie's super chill about it. In fact, still very supportive because Lizzie goes to the law firm to talk to her and say, hey, I sank your house. And Janie's just like, you what? That's terrible. And she's like, but it was because of Fred. And like Janie doesn't skip a beat. She's like, is Fred here? And she's like, yeah, he's in. And Fred is like in the board meeting and he's all dressed up and like a lawyer. He's acting like an idiot. And so Janie walks in and like yells at him and then wheels the chair out. Of course, he's invisible to everybody else. Wheels the chair out and then just starts like, she's like, is he still in the chair? And he's not. But Fred makes her say yes, like by shaking her head. Mm-hmm. And so she just starts like punching him and strangling him and like takes him on the floor and stomps on him, takes off her heel and starts like pounding him with the heel and creating a huge scene. Like everybody's like looking and like, what's going on here? And she's just like, the only thing that explains why she's doing this is because she's trying to support Lizzie's feelings. Mm-hmm. And she just learned that she lost her house, but Lizzie matters more to her than that. You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
to me,
it
that's
really
very
is.
interesting.
Yep.
And she refuses any external judgment of what's happening. The other lawyers come out and like, what are you doing? There's no one here. Her response is, he's invisible, you idiot. This has nothing to do with you.
Yeah. Mm-mm.
Yeah. She's so self-assured.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like Janie is who Lizzie like aspires to be. Like she wants that kind of freedom and not needing validation from anybody else,
Yep.
And Carrie Fisher does so much with so little screen time.
Yeah.
Like, she's not in it very much, but like, yeah, when she's in it, she's in it. Yeah.
She's great.
Yeah.
There's many things are not subtext in this movie. Fred, from the beginning, very specifically says, I'm here. I would love to go. You want me to go? I'd love to go. But I'm here because you're unhappy. I can't leave until you get happy. So what's going to make you happy? Mm-hmm. And her response is immediately, well, I need Charles back. If I get Charles back, I'll be happy. And so he does help with that. He does some crazy shit that doesn't seem to be helping, but all of it leads to her having the opportunity to seduce Charles back. And he comes a-running. And she gets him back, and Fred is still fucking there.
Fred is still there. And he points that out to her while she's trying to make Charles this romantic salad, which is such a weird thing. But, he's like, are you happy now? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, then why am I still here?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And she's pissed at him because he replaced her dinner with a mud pie, or she replaced her own dinner with a mud pie because she already knew she wasn't happy and satisfied, but she needed this external part of her to tell her that. Whatever. He also clues her into the fact that, Charles is in the other room talking to Annabella because he's still into her. And so it's not necessarily super duper subtle. I don't think it needs to be subtle. I don't think that's the point. What's happening right now is if we're to take this at face value, it's your imaginary friend who's there to help you be happy, screaming at you to be happy because what you're doing is killing yourself. Or it's the self-preservational part of you screaming at yourself to say, what you're doing is fucking you up harder. Please stop. And I don't think that needs to be subtle. And none of what the movie is doing is necessarily subtle. The pranks, the silliness, the sight gags are meant to be kind of juvenile. And linking in those flashbacks, some of the flashbacks are gut-wrenching.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the one where... Because her father is in most of them because her parents were together pretty much right up until Drop Dead Fred exited the picture.
Yep.
And her father was pretty passive. He supported her and cared about her and didn't think what her mother was doing was okay, but he also didn't stop it, and he just abandoned her in order to abandon the mother. And it's clear that the mother probably blames her for the dissolution of the relationship.
Oh, yeah, she said it's your fault that daddy left, basically.
Yep. But not until the end. She doesn't actually get the words until the end, which is good because that's when she could actually handle them. But it's... And to be fair, little Elizabeth and Fred are up to some shit. I mean, when they play burglars, they steal a bunch of shit and break a bunch of shit and stick it in a sack and then throw it out in the garden to bury it. And they break a window. Meanwhile, her parents are upstairs thinking there are actual burglars in the house. And they call the cops, but when the cops show up, they don't know because the phone call is cut out before they can finish having a conversation, so they think it's the burglar coming up the stairs, so her father tackles a cop, and they roll down the stairs, and then he winds up getting arrested. Those are real consequences.
Yeah, those are real consequences, for sure.
That's all very stressful.
Yeah.
So, that could have very easily put strain on the relationship, but if the relationship itself wasn't strained to begin with, a child isn't going to break up a marriage.
Yeah.
Right. And it seems like her mom has always been this manipulative way, even before. I mean, the rule is, right, that Fred is there because Lizzie's unhappy, and I think that's even true when she's a child too, right?
Yeah.
So like, even if she started acting out more with Fred as an invisible friend, her mom and her dad were both unavailable emotionally and manipulative, and Fred just kind of let her have some fun.
And supported her and made her laugh and made her feel cared for, gave her physical affection. Like there are snuggles as much as there are snot wipes. Like there's definitely, there's a groundedness to this psychotic relationship that is completely at odds with what her actual experience is.
Right.
And it's well shown. That little girl is so fucking cute. How can you not give her snuggles?
Yeah.
And respect her enough to get her to stop destroying everything you own.
Yep.
But it's they show the scene where the mother, the Jack in the Box, her mother actually trapped Fred in that. It wasn't, Lizzie didn't lock him away. He didn't just necessarily disappear, although he's magic, so in theory he could have busted himself out. But there is a scene where her mom figures out that Fred is in the box, and she snatches it and says, I'm going to lock him away. And she starts to cry. And her mother's response to her little girl's tears are, aha, so this is what makes you cry. I think she literally says that.
She does.
Now I know
yeah.
what to do. And so she tapes that box up. And later, Elizabeth, as an adult, as she's thinking about this, she's like, once my mother knew how to hurt me, she did it all the time. And so I had to just lock away how I actually really feel inside of me. Again, no subtext here. It is just you're seeing this unfold on the screen. It doesn't make it any less impactful. Kind of you're watching somebody have very basic realizations that you know you see more subtly portrayed. But I think especially when you yourself are going through it, it has to be a whack over the head. because you're so deep into your own patterns and your own sublimated feelings and your own trauma that you need someone to scream in your face and say, "You're not happy."
Yeah.
Your mom really fucked you up. And you internalized a lot of shit. And this movie does that in a weirdly pleasant way.
In a weirdly pleasant way, like a way that will make you laugh from time to time. It will disgust you. But so, like, certain journeys of self-help are that, right? Like, you have to grapple with disgust. You have to get back into the primordial and even feral feelings of your subconscious. You know what I mean? Like, it is self-destructive at times. And, like, and it's just a really cool allegory for that, in my opinion. You know, I feel like I think it pulls it off.
Yeah. Poop and mud and food throwing. The dinner or the lunch with Mickey is...
Oh, boy.
Unhinged?
Megan?
Yeah. It's disturbing.
It's disturbing. But your realization, which I hadn't ever thought about before, is that it's the first time we're seeing Elizabeth and Fred's relationship from the external perspective of not being able to see him.
Did I say that?
Yeah, you did.
I think I said that.
Oh, you said that?
I think Michael said that.
Sorry, it was just really smart, so I assumed it was from Megan.
That's fair. That's fair.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry,
Yeah, that's
Michael.
all right. Yeah, because like Fred is trying to sabotage the date that they're on, and he's like taking her arm while he's holding wine and shaking it, and she's just from Mickey's point of view, she's just like shaking and just like randomly throwing food, and he's thinking, "This is awesome. This is
Fucking Mickey.
She is so free. Board. She's a free spirit." And he like, there's a couple of moments where he's like, "Why did you do that?" You know, like it's a little bit disturbed, but also a little bit. And how can I?
It was it was curiosity. It was not immediately ready to discount it as just she picks up her water glass to take a drink and then inexplicably moves it away from herself, but she's struggling with her own muscle. So it's twitching and shaking, and then eventually, very slowly, she pours the entire glass of water into her own lap and then shakes the last of the...
Yep.
At one point, so he's like, "So why did you do that?"
Yep.
Fun? Okay. And then, he forces her to lift up the plate and smell it, and then she's able to put it back down, and she's relieved for a second, and then just...
Whoa.
Wow,
just like your microphone.
Thank you, Foley work. Flings it into the wall. And again, as you said, he questions, well, why did you do that? And then he just starts throwing food himself. It unlocks.
He starts throwing food at everybody.
Oh boy. Yeah. This is dangerous. They are dangerous people to be together.
Yes.
They just amp each other up.
Alive, right? He's throwing food at people. He's like, "This is great." They get thrown out. And she's like, "Oh, I left something in," and I think she said her dress, but it doesn't make any sense. But like, so he's like, "Yeah," and he just runs back in there. He just got thrown out of there, but he runs back in there to like, because he doesn't care anymore.
Yeah.
He feels this liberation that I think the subtext is like, he clearly has been suppressing his own self too for such a long time. And here's this excuse or this realization or this epiphany personified in Lizzie that allows him to be his true self, which is maybe more, spontaneous and just, alive.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's that scene is genuinely funny.
I think so.
Yeah.
I have a question for you guys too. So I had some thoughts on rewatching this that I wouldn't have had as a kid, but there's some perviness about Fred. He does. There's a recurring gag where he slides between a woman's legs and looks up her skirt. Right.
Yeah. Yep. Upsetting.
Which is gross.
Yes.
Right. But if we're reading it as he's an extension of Lizzie, and Lizzie has all kinds of repressed feelings, I was wondering, did that read like, is she struggling with her own sexuality in those instances? Is that like something that the movie doesn't ever confront it like face up? But I wonder if the writers were trying to say something in the background. Did that ring with you guys in any way?
Yes, especially because Lizzie briefly meets Annabella, who's played in a cameo by Bridget Fonda. And Fred has done this gross thing to her, and they don't know who each other are yet. But like, essentially they have almost like a meet cute. Like it's, they're both kind of like complimenting each other's dresses, and then, of course, stupid Charles comes in and ruins everything. And Annabelle actually says to him, like, you told me she wasn't good looking. And, so obviously saying that she is good. So anyway, but that did feel,
she was dressed up at the time. Yeah.
But it felt very flirty. It really did.
Oh, definitely felt flirty, especially on Annabella's part. Mm-hmm. I think, but Elizabeth was also, I mean, it was a meet cute created by Fred. He slid under her as Elizabeth trying to get him up off the ground. She's like, your dress is it's nice material. It's really slinky. And that kind of flips a switch, and Annabella's like, oh, thank you. I like your dress too. And it
has that tone.
It does. Like that. It really does. And I don't feel like that's accidental, because it wasn't just, I like your dress too. It felt much more flirty. And I do like the read of, if he's doing this and it's her, then maybe it is her expressing kind of a desire she has not yet explored. And maybe men are not her flavor. I love that read so much.
Because Fred also refers to sex as like, that's what the pigeons do. He immediately gets a shovel and goes outside because he's angry. He learns that she's had sex with Charles early in the movie, and he gets so angry he takes a shovel and starts trying to smash some pigeons. That's funny, people.
Yeah, because they taught her how to have sex, and he's mad.
Yeah, he's mad about it. Obviously. But if that's an extension of her true self, then she therefore thinks that having sex with men, who apparently she's only had sex with men, is disgusting. Right?
Well, and think about when she hooks back up with Charles. They kiss, Fred is right there, and his commentary is, ooh, how does that taste? And is kind of like constantly interjecting in this moment that's supposed to be, intimate and arousing. And he finds like, are you going to do it like the pigeons do it? No, you're supposed to stamp on his head, and then he's supposed to peck you a bunch. And then it's, what is this? What is this nonsense?
What is happening here?
Another great joke.
Yep.
Even when Fred's mud pie like explodes all over Charles's pants, it explodes all over his lap. You know what I mean? There's just like dirt and penis and like it's not clean, it's not right.
I like this read.
There's
I like
a lot
this
of
read
imagery here, right?
I like this read. Yeah.
Especially because it takes the very pervy male under a woman's skirt without her knowledge or consent and kind of turns it into still pervy, but more maybe an extension, like a childish extension of a longing she has not pursued.
Yep.
And then the cherry on top is, again, if you're in tune with the tropes, like she should be with Mickey at the end, and they should be raising Mickey's daughter, and they should be a couple at the end, right? They're not a couple at the end. They're friends, right? I was also curious about her costume at the end. She's wearing like these brown kind of overalls. So not a dress. She's always been wearing a dress throughout the movie, either her kid-like dress or her, grown-up clothes that her mom picked out that look exactly like her mom's clothes.
Exactly like her mom's clothes.
Or her sexy Get Charles Back dress.
Yeah. But when she's, on the path to healing, her clothes are, this is a bit more like casual. I don't know how to explain it, but I don't know. I don't know if that's part of the read also or what. But just the ending, having a non-romantic ending, I think is.
Yep.
I really do like that. And I think it would have either way undercut the message of the movie, because it is quite literally at the end when she realized Charles is still being unfaithful. She's still not happy. She's given these pills by this doctor that will literally kill Fred so that he doesn't, go away on his own when she becomes happy. And as she's about to take the last pill, she finds out about Charles's infidelity and literally falls into Fred and goes into her own imagination, where she fights Charles, fights her mother, literally dispels her own demons in her head, and literally frees her own 6-year-old self from a bed she's been taped in her childhood room, gives her a hug.
Taped just like the Jack in the Box.
Just like the Jack in the Box.
Tape, yeah.
Same tape. hugs her, and then she disappears into her. And and she's like, all right, I'm good. I'm ready to go. I just had the best psychedelic journey of my life. I have fought all of my inner demons, and I am now a very healthy and functional person who is ready to take on my future, whatever it may be. Let's go, Fred. Ooh, can't come with you. You got to go without me, baby. But now I really do appreciate and need you. She's like, you don't need me. You've got you now. Just no subtext.
Beautiful line.
Yeah,
but
no
still,
subtext, yeah.
it doesn't,
but
because it's
good.
a beautiful line, right? Like that's the point of affirmations, to say them fucking out loud. And just to have that, and she gets a look on her face of, oh, that's right, I do. This is going to be fine.
She comes out of that trip like Neo in the Matrix. Like, she can stop bullets now.
Fucking
like,
yes. Emotional and then that literally happens. Emotional bullets get sent at her from her mother. All of the things she hasn't been outright saying. She says, I had a child to save my marriage. That was a mistake. You made it worse. He left because of you. And she throws at the like, Elizabeth is out. Elizabeth is done. She doesn't need to stay at home anymore. She's not going to go back to Charles. She's happy with who she is, and she's going to move forward. She doesn't need her mom. And her mom is trying to manipulate her into staying
back in. Yeah.
And none of them work. But what I love is that you don't leave her as the evil monster in this movie. Yes, she has been a part of the problem, and yes, she's not great. But Elizabeth turns around when she says, the last thing she says after saying some seriously venomous shit is, I'll be lonely. The first fucking, what is the word?
Epiphany, realization.
Vulnerable moment she has.
Being vulnerable.
That isn't just pure, it's still manipulative, but it's also sort of, it's almost wrenched from her, which is really well acted. The mother is played by, Marsha Mason. She plays Polly.
Yes.
So,
She's great.
She's great. She does it really, really, really well. And Elizabeth turns around, hugs her, kisses her on the cheek, and says, you should get yourself a friend. And it's that's health, baby. That's compassion. She's not mad at her mom. She doesn't wish her ill. She recognizes her failings. In a mean way. Exactly.
It's not sarcastic. It's not get yourself a friend. It's you should get yourself a friend. You know, like kind of the way Janie would probably talk to her, you know, like in a very validating and welcoming kind of way, even though a great hurt has been done, i.e. sinking a houseboat, or in this case, you know, blaming you for a divorce when you were a child.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
That's so cool. I don't know. There's just something lovely about that. Her health does not come at the expense of, that her health is not contingent on maintaining rage at people. She's not mad and vindictive at Charles. She's not mad and vindictive at her mother. She's truly the sanest, healthiest person in this movie now. Despite everything we just saw.
Yeah.
That's right.
And she can do anything. God help us all.
Yeah. And then the movie ends on a really cute moment because they're visiting Mickey's daughter who's being babysat, and his babysitter is up to her. She's covered in mud and she's like freaking out. And Lizzie looks at the girl who has her pinky up, like she's doing a pinky promise, and her arm is kind of shaking as like she's giggling over this torture that she's conducted on this babysitter. And the little girl says, yeah, it's Drop Dead Fred told me to do this. And so she realizes that Drop Dead Fred has like found a new kid to kind of be there for. So the movie has that like little spinning top at the end of Inception kind of moment. Like, so was he real? You know, that kind of thing. Yep. He must have been, because this other kid who makes up Drop Dead Fred, you know. And it ends there. And it's just a really beautiful ending.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Yay.
Yay.
So that's Drop Dead Fred, people. You're welcome.
Drop Dead Fred.
Yeah.
The deepest dive in the Drop Dead Fred that it deserves.
I love that on this podcast we got from Michael a queer reading of Drop Dead Fred.
Hey,
yes.
You're welcome.
That's
love it.
Awesome. That's a gift.
It's a you know, possibly queer positive movie, and definitely a, you know, maybe a feminist movie. You know what I mean? Like I think there's some reads on that too, like like a good girl power kind of flick.
Yep.
100% agree. This is a bizarrely empowering movie, both from the standpoint of being a woman and growing up as a child. If you had any sort of suppression or trauma. Like it's
Yeah.
it speaks to
And being
one.
a white dude, like I can like identify with Mickey even a little bit. Like I'm attracted to Lizzie's freedom and like pushing back against like what society expects of you and stuff like that. And not that I'm like particularly oppressed or anything, but you know, like quite the opposite actually. But we're all like shoveled into role. You know, like this movie is supposed to be categorized. Like we talked about that at the beginning, right? Like people don't always fit into the little boxes that people want, and sometimes we try to fit into that little box, and it costs us our soul a little bit. So this movie kind of pushes back against that, and I love it.
So do you often tell people in your life, I love how you sink boats?
I'm going to start, I think.
Okay, fair.
I think it's a good line.
Speaking of little boxes that work so well to categorize things, how would you rate this movie? Regrettable, outstanding, crazy balls, K, or solid?
Can I rate the transition as outstanding? That was amazing.
That was incredible. I hate that I interrupted that with my dumb comment. I may edit it out because the transition was gorgeous, and I'm sorry that I ruined it.
Yeah. I was worried and rewatching this because I hadn't seen it in 25 years. I was like, oh, this is going to probably be dumb and sophomoric and not as fun as I remembered it. I laughed the whole time. Some of the stuff is like, yeah, that's kind of dumb. But if you read it in the context of someone's psychological journey with their own childhood, it fits, it works, it's beautiful, it's got touching moments, it's well acted top to bottom. I would call it outstanding. I like the audience score of 77. Feels about right. I might even be tempted to give it like 85. I know it's not like some kind of like master class of like psychology. I'm sure therapists might have some things to say about the movie. I don't know, but as far as like good storytelling and I thought it was outstanding.
Excellent. Amber?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know if it's nostalgia or my own obsession with putting psychological journeys into film. I find this movie outstanding. I'm not saying it's for everyone. I'm not saying if you don't have the same attachments and associations, both historical and personal, to it, that you would necessarily find it the same. Because it's weird. It's off kilter. Mm-hmm. It's not subtle. But it doesn't do anything icky other than the skirt looking.
Mm-hmm.
And it really is, it's almost safe in the way that it explores these things. It's non-confrontational, even as you're confronted with kind of the, oh God, people get in trouble, what a mess.
There's even one thing I read from a review was kind of addressing that kind of thing, that even the houseboat going down
is fine.
Is fine because she gets like this huge ass check for insurance that she's like she's have thrilled. That than the houseboat. So like it closes that loop, which is kind of like, for me as a person who kind of like squidges out at some of these like really stressful kind of comedic-y scenes, like having that be said, I'm like, okay, like it kind of like relieves the tension in my neck a little bit, where I'm like, okay, well, she's fine, but she is actually better off now that her houseboat has been sunk.
Because she outright says it. I am better off.
Yes.
Look at all those zeros. Thank you, Drop Dead Fred. She screams to the heavens.
She says, thank you, Drop Dead Fred. Yeah, that's so funny.
It is, and then in rewatching it, you know that's going to happen. So then the scene doesn't feel stressful anymore. And there's a safety to it. Because it's so almost cartoonishly perfect in its setups of tension and resolutions, it can kind of do this fairly complicated and insightful look at what happens when a traumatized kid is re-traumatized as an adult and has a break, and show how you can do it healthfully while doing it crazily. And it I don't know, it's interesting. It's interesting, and I really like this movie, and I find it outstanding.
Excellent.
Megan?
I'm going to go with Crazeballs.
Oh, definitely. You're not wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Solid and outstanding.
Okay.
I feel like that's probably the most objective and measured I think you're right, and I'm wrong.
No,
That's probably fair.
But I don't think that's actually true. That might be true of someone who watches it now, having not seen it as a kid, because there's like, I mean, I think nostalgia and being taken back to a place where, you know, your childhood when you watch this for like the first 300 times. I think that's totally valid too.
But not objective.
But certainly not objective.
Deeply subjective. Excellent.
Yes.
Well, what is BMR if not a science podcast?
Oh, yeah. Hard science here. Nothing but the
Entertainment
best
justice.
peer-reviewed entertainment justice.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Yep.
Wonderful.
Megan, do Anissa's story.
So, we were the kids like to say boo, and they like to scream boo in your face because, you know, it's scarier that way. Mm-hmm. Although Dan taught them, I think it was Dan taught them that the scariest way to say boo was to come over and go boo, which in fact it is scarier coming from a kid.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good Jedi father trick to be like, no, the scariest way is the quietest way that won't bother me as much.
Yes. That's exactly what he did. And I think that he also actually is correct.
Yeah, he stumbled
Both
on
things
that.
are true.
Yeah.
Like, this is less like screaming in your face, but it is scarier.
Definitely just a boo whispered. And then maybe if you could do just kind of like a childlike giggle that sort of echoes hauntingly.
Yes.
I won't sleep again for a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent. Michael, do you have a Sneha story?
I do. Over the summer, we drove from Texas to Minnesota, which is a long car ride. But it didn't feel so long. We did a lot of like singing in the car, which I like to do. And we had this funny moment where we were listening to American Pie, came up on the list. And, you know, we're saying, bye, bye, Miss American Pie and all that. And then the end of the chorus where it's like, and this will be the day that I die. And Sneha was like, I don't like this song. And we're like, why? It's like a fun song, you know? And she's like, they're talking about dying. And I was like, no. He's saying this will be the day that I diet. Okay? and she said, oh, okay. And so we sang, because it's like a 30-hour long song. We sang Diet at the end of every chorus so that Sneha would sing the song with us. So then we get to Minnesota, and like during the week that we're vacationing there, that song comes on, like while people are cooking and they're listening to music, and she's listening to this song again, and then she yells at the like Alexa or whatever. She's like, no, that's the wrong lyrics. This says die. My dad says that it's diet. Dad, get them to play the right version where it doesn't talk about dying.
Awesome.
Oh, man.
I'm glad that she took your side over Alexa's side.
Yeah. Well,
she's like,
knows
Dad
our
is
bread's
right. The song is incorrect.
Alexa can go straight to hell.
Yeah.
Oh, it was amazing. We laughed so hard.
Do we want to do recommendations or do we want to wrap up?
I'll do one real fast. Since we just watched a movie where a person has a green friend that is actually them, I want to recommend She-Hulk.
Yes.
Where it's if you haven't seen She-Hulk, she breaks the fourth wall. It's funny. It's thoughtful. It's another girl power feminist kind of show that I think isn't a turnoff for men to watch. I think it's just great. It's funny and cool, and I think She-Hulk is my new favorite MCU character. Like it's a big statement because I really like superhero movies, but watch She-Hulk. It's awesome.
Excellent. I could co-sign that, and also like just as a like, it is very different from the other MCU TV series. What do we even call these miniseries?
Yeah,
whatever
miniseries,
they're called.
I think.
So just like reframe your brain just a little bit.
Yeah. Another one hard to
watching it.
categorize, right? Like it's a superhero show, but it fights with all the superhero tropes on purpose. Mm-hmm. It's great.
Yeah.
It's self-aware. It's all the things. It's awesome.
Yep. Very good. Agreed. Lovely.
Well, I want to thank you guys for having me on the show again. It's always such a pleasure, and we always talk way longer than we should about things, but
Oops-a-doodle.
But I, as a fan and as a friend, it's a great honor. So thank you so much.
It is always lovely to have you, Michael.
Oh yeah, it is a great honor to have you, Michael, BMR co-host and fan.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to close this out like I always do
every time
with a Carrie Fisher quote.
Okay,
I'm back in.
No motive is pure. No one is good or bad, but a hearty mix of both. And sometimes life actually gives to you by taking away.
Whoa, that actually happened in this movie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
yes.
my gosh. Do you think that quote came after being in Drop Dead Fred?
It's the only thing possible.
It's the only thing that makes any sense.
It actually said, it does say Carrie Fisher after making Drop Dead Fred. It actually just said that.
Excellent.
You didn't read the first part of the quote where she's like, I, Carrie Fisher of Drop Dead Fred fame, shall now recount my times and wisdom.
Yep. It actually started with, Fred's motive is not necessarily pure. Fred
is neither good nor bad.
Is not good or bad.
Sometimes
they credited it?
Yes.
They credited that out?
Oh, no, man, Michael.
Okay, I'll show myself out.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
Very naughty.
Oh, I think we all need to go on this one.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. I'm sorry, I guess.